Gurmagat Lascian Corla, and can I first of all commend my colleague Deputy Willie Penrose for tabling this motion. I sat beside Deputy Penrose last night during his opening contribution, where he talked about the real effect of the downturn on real communities, his particular community, and he talked about a particular enterprise in County Westmeath and the effect of that on the particular man who was running this enterprise and indeed on the entire community. And all of us here in this House represent such communities. We are here to represent those communities, and they look to us to do something, and to do something practical about the problems that they're seeing all around them. And that is why we've tabled this motion, because we've stood up here many times and we've talked about, and indeed I have talked about, large job losses in our constituencies, where I've talked about concerns in companies like Dail, which are huge employers in my particular constituency, and other companies where we've seen 100 jobs or 200 jobs lost. And indeed today there was an announcement in 3 different parts of the country of 240 jobs gone in West Limerick, Kilkenny and Galway. But along with those large announcements are the small numbers of jobs that are being lost in small businesses right throughout the country. And these are having a devastating effect on the communities concerned. And the thing about these jobs is that we're talking about what, by and large, are viable businesses. They're having problems now with cash flows because there is a recession and they can't get access to credit. But realistically, those companies will be up and running and viable again in whatever length of time it takes to come out of this recession. And in the European Union, they're suggesting that within a year or 2 years, we should be out of this recession, provided the proper action is taken by the governments of the European Union. And it is a real contrast to what's going on in Europe to see what's happening here. The total lack of action by our government and the total lack of leadership. Before I came down here tonight at Lascian Corla, I was watching the 6 o'clock news and I saw Mr Barroso, on behalf of the European Union, talking about a 200 billion fund which he was urging member states to use to start their economies working and to get them to begin to move out of recession. And straight afterwards, the RTE correspondent came on and said, well, actually, Ireland won't be using this fund because, for one reason or another, we can't use it because we've overspent or because the government doesn't want to use it. It just seems to me to be crazy that a country that was so rich so recently, we're now being told that we're not going to participate in this European attempt to climb out of the recession. We're not seeing any positive measures whatsoever coming from government that's going to pull us out of recession, that's going to give the kind of positive climate that will make people actually start believing in Irish industries and in Irish companies. And the Small Business Operational Fund, which is referred to specifically in the Labour Party motion, we should have that money drawn down by now, and yet all we can see is government standing idly by and saying, well, we're hoping the banks will decide to use this fund. I mean, we need something more proactive than that. And can I suggest that maybe the credit unions might actually do something about drawing down this fund? Or maybe the government themselves should be doing something about drawing down this fund. But certainly there are small businesses out there in every corner of the country who are looking for somebody to take action, and they're looking to government. And that's why we in opposition have tabled this motion, in order to encourage the government to take action. And, we are seeing, on the one hand, small businesses who can't get their hands on, maybe it might only be a matter of €10,000 or whatever it might be, small amounts of money in terms of cash flow. And yet there's a €500 billion guarantee to the banks. And despite that, there doesn't seem to be any way in which the government feels that it can actually tell the banks to do something. And my colleague Deputy Rabbit referred to the fact that the banks are being very prudent now, when they were anything but prudent in the recent past, when they were profligately lending in all sorts of directions without any kind of sense of proportion about it. But now, suddenly, they've become extremely prudent and they won't lend to viable small businesses in all of our constituencies around the country. And, we see how that affects real people. I know people who are preparing to emigrate. trying to figure out how they're going to rent out the house, what they're going to do with the dog, how are they going to actually afford to get to the country where they hope they might be able to get work. We see other people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their mortgage when their job is gone. I see small business people who can't even get unemployment assistance or unemployment benefit because they're told, they're shown their tax figures from last year, and they're told, well, you know, on the basis of the last figures we have, you actually had a good income. So now, you know, they won't accept the fact that now you actually have no income. And they're finding it extremely difficult even to get basic unemployment assistance. So there's a whole real world out there, Minister, that is
1 minute.
urging us and demanding that there's action taken. And I hope that this motion tonight will be some kind of catalyst to government to take the kind of action that's needed. And just in the minute that I have left, my colleague Deputy Upton referred to the role of science and so on. I mean, I really don't think that there is the kind of practical support for people with good ideas that's needed here. And I just want to cite one example from my own constituency. 2 young men, Collison brothers, one of them won the Young Scientist exhibition just a couple of years ago. They came up with a great idea. And do you know where they got the money? They couldn't get funding in Ireland. They went over to Silicon Valley. And their company is now worth over $1 million. We just need practical solutions for the people out there who are crying out for help.